Minimalism is an art form that looks simple and pure, but it raises a big question for many. How can something so minimal be considered art? In this video, we'll talk about what minimalism really is, what it means, and explore some of the famous artworks that shaped this movement. Whether you admire its simplicity or question its purpose, minimalism has more to it than you might think. Minimalist art emerged in the 1960s, primarily in the United States. It was a reaction against the bold emotions and intense subjectivity of abstract expressionism, which had dominated the art world. Instead of dramatic gestures and emotional expression, minimalist artists focused on simplicity, clarity, and the essence of materials. They stripped away anything they considered unnecessary. But minimalism didn't appear out of nowhere. Its roots can be traced back to earlier movements. The Bauhaus school, for example, emphasized simplicity and functionality as central principles of design. A great example is Marcel Breuer's Wasserli chair, which highlights form and material for their utility and purity. Movements like constructivism and de style also played important roles. Constructivist artists, like Vladimir Tatlin, focused on industrial materials and geometric shapes. De style artists, such as Piet Mondrian, reduced art to pure lines and primary colors. These movements inspired minimalist artists to rethink the purpose of art, moving away from representation and storytelling. In minimalist art, there's no attempt to represent the outside world, no objects, people, or stories. The focus is entirely on the artwork itself, its materials, its form, and how it interacts with the space around it. American painter Frank Stella famously said, "What you see is what you see." This philosophy emphasizes that meaning lies in the direct relationship between the viewer, the material, and the space it occupies. Minimalism wasn't just about reducing art to its essentials. It was a bold response to its time, challenging traditional ideas of what art could and should be. Before minimalism, movements like abstract expressionism focused heavily on emotion, personal expression, and dynamic gestures. Think about Jackson Pollock's drip paintings with their explosive energy, or Mark Rothko's color fields, which evoke intense emotional responses. These works often invited viewers to interpret hidden meanings or connect with the artist's inner world. Minimalism, on the other hand, took a completely different path. It stripped away traditional notions of emotion, narrative, and symbolism, inviting viewers to focus entirely on the physical presence of the artwork. Instead of telling a story or evoking specific feelings, minimalist art offers a direct, unfiltered experience. The meaning isn't absent. It's found in the interaction between the viewer, the space, and the artwork itself. This approach allows each person to engage with the work in their own way, free from imposed interpretations. Take minimalist sculpture as an example. The repetition of forms isn't just about aesthetics. It's about the way subtle shifts in perception happen as the viewer moves through the space. Each change in viewpoint reveals new relationships between the forms, the space they occupy, and the viewer's own experience of time. Now that we've covered the roots and context of minimalism, let's take a closer look at what makes minimalist art so distinctive. While the philosophy behind the movement is important, it's the unique characteristics that truly set it apart and keep it relevant today. One of the most defining characteristics of minimalism is its focus on simplicity, reducing art to its most essential elements. This often involves basic geometric shapes, clean lines, and a limited color palette. Minimalist art is frequently described as pure and streamlined, with minimal or even imperceptible brush strokes and clear separations between colors. But minimalism isn't just about visual simplicity, it also minimizes the emotional or personal expression of the artist. The art isn't about conveying the artist's feelings. Instead, it highlights the objective qualities of the work itself, its form, material, and physical presence. Another key characteristic of minimalism is its focus on the relationship between the artwork and the space around it. Minimalist art doesn't exist in isolation. It interacts with its environment and invites viewers to perceive it through their physical presence and movement in the space. A great example is Donald Judd's stacked boxes, like Untitled. These pieces are mounted on a wall with precise spacing, where the gaps between the boxes are just as significant as the boxes themselves. This creates a dialogue between the artwork, the surrounding space, and the way viewers experience it as they move around the room. Judd recognized that actual space is intrinsically more powerful and specific than paint on a flat surface. His move into three-dimensional works reflected a broader shift among artists of his time, who began to see the physical environment as a key part of the artwork. This interaction between form and space makes minimalist art a dynamic experience, where perception and spatial awareness are central to the viewer's engagement. Minimalist art also places a strong emphasis on materiality, the idea of showcasing the natural qualities of the materials used in the artwork. Minimalist artists often work with industrial materials like steel, concrete, glass, or fluorescent lights, emphasizing their textures, finishes, and structures. For example, Carl Andre's Equivalent 8, a simple rectangular arrangement of fire bricks, draws attention to the weight, texture, and arrangement of the bricks themselves. The materials aren't disguised or altered. Instead, they're presented exactly as they are. By placing the bricks directly on the floor, Andre eliminates the traditional sculptural pedestal and the separation it creates between the artwork and the ordinary space around it. The viewer and the sculpture share the same space, which is emphasized by Andre's choice of plain, factory-made bricks instead of fine art materials like bronze or marble. This focus on materiality eliminates the need for illusion or representation. Instead, it aligns with minimalism's goal of presenting art as an object in its purest form. It invites viewers to experience the work exactly as it is, focusing on its physical presence and material qualities without distraction. If you'd like to dive deeper into these ideas, don't forget to check out the links in the description. Beyond these characteristics, minimalist art is also defined by its use of repetition, geometric shapes, and simple color combinations. Repetition creates a sense of rhythm and uniformity, drawing attention to the structure of the work. Geometric shapes emphasize simplicity and precision, while the use of color varies. Most artists favor neutral or monochromatic palettes to maintain a focus on form and material. However, there are exceptions, such as Dan Flavin, who employs vibrant hues to explore light and space. Despite these differences, both approaches rely on simple color combinations. Together, these features define the minimalist movement and its pursuit of clarity and purity in art. Although minimalism is a defining movement in modern art, it has not been without its critics and controversies. Examining these critiques provides a balanced perspective, highlighting both the strengths and challenges of the movement. One common criticism of minimalism is that it feels too cold and detached. Its focus on industrial materials, geometric shapes, and the absence of narrative or emotional content can seem impersonal or sterile to some viewers. In response, post-minimalism emerged as a reaction to these limitations. Post-minimalist artists sought to bring more emotion, organic forms, and personal expression into their work. Artists like Eva Hesse and Richard Serra pushed beyond minimalism's boundaries while still retaining some of its principles. Another criticism of minimalism is that its reduction of form and content can make the artwork feel superficial or lacking in substance. By stripping art down to its bare essentials, some argue that minimalist works can appear shallow, missing the depth and complexity found in more elaborate art forms. The focus on minimal elements is sometimes seen as a shortcut, with critics suggesting it allows artists to do as little work as possible. Despite these critiques, minimalism remains one of the most influential movements in modern art. Its radical simplicity challenged traditional notions of art, shifting the focus to materiality, form, and space. By encouraging viewers to engage with the artwork on a deeper level, minimalism redefined how we experience and interpret art. So, what about you? What are your thoughts on minimalism? Do you find its simplicity inspiring, or do you feel it lacks emotional depth? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.